you sent a text to me and my wife a few weeks ago about you watching a replay of that Michigan State triple overtime game that you were doing play-by-play. She was doing sideline of, where I was actually at the game in person and fearful of her life because Michigan fans stormed the field. I thought I'd never see her again. But what have you seen of in this quarantine where everybody's running back that you saw, that you called, that you either forgot you called or you sat back, okay, like this is something that I'm glad I was part of over the last few weeks?
Well, the fun stretch, that was in a stretch when I texted you all and that game was on. That was a stretch. There was just one run of about, I think, 10 nights or so.
Yeah.
That things that I did on ESPN or ABC re-aired in different places along the way. So every night, like 9:30, I'd get this text from a random person. Hey, watching this game. Hey, I remember this game, which was fun. I think I've seen 6 or 7 Monday Night Football games re-air here in the last. So I may do as many ESPN Monday Night Football games this year as anybody else. But the one that I did actually sit and watch one more time was the return to Katrina New Orleans game back in 2006.
Unbelievable.
53 weeks after Hurricane Katrina, or 55 weeks the game was. That was our third Monday Night Football game at ESPN. So that was game 3 in that run for me. And it was I was doing play-by-play, Joe Theismann and Tony Kornheiser. And I kind of watched the game afraid of watching it now 14 years later, because hopefully you get better at what you do 14 years after the fact. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I must have been terrible here. And the game was so enjoyable to watch. And I thought Tony was just the perfect person to have there that night. And the whole deal, soup to nuts, from the Steve Gleason block punt to the first game in the Dome for Drew Brees and Sean Payton as a head coach quarterback combo, to everything that was around it with U2 and Green Day doing a concert before the game. It was a cool experience, and that was the one that I went back and watched, and I just sat and absorbed the whole game and really looked back at it with great pride. Very little to do with me calling 3rd and 5 or whatever, but what everybody else did on the show, including Jay Rothman and Chip Dean, who were my producer-director for my 10 years at Monday Night Football and are great friends and are awesome at what they do. That was a great memory for me, and it was a nice part of looking back at all these encore broadcasts.
Well, I was there that night with NFL Network. We brought the NFL Network crew there and did pregame and postgame there because it was such an important night. The commissioner, Paul Tagliabue, was there, and as we all know, he insisted that New Orleans not be abandoned. And I think that'll be discussed at length when the commissioner does get inducted into the Hall of Fame when that happens. Yeah. But I remember I was sitting next to Marshall Faulk, a native son of that great city, watching the coin toss, and everyone kind of disappointed that the Saints had to start on defense, right? That it was a big thing. Like, okay, here, we want to see Drew Brees. Here we go. Oh, okay, let's start on defense. And then on the second down, I think, Vic fumbles the ball. Ball's loose on the ground, and the place went crazy, but it rolled out of bounds.
Correct.
And the number of things that could have gone differently, coin toss, ball didn't roll out of bounds, actually rolled to a Saint, that didn't happen, but it led to Steve Gleason blocking that punt, which is now a statue in front of that stadium.
The statue.
Unbelievable how things work out, right? You know,
it was incredible. I remember, obviously, you don't want to get the game going. You don't want to step on stuff. There's so much other stuff going on. But it was one of those games where they open your microphone to the public address, so you are the PA announcer to introduce the national anthem. And I remember President Bush 41 was doing the ceremonial coin toss. And there was a brief moment that I do vividly remember go, oh, my gosh, I'm going to introduce the president. I've never done this. Help. Don't screw this up. Whatever you do, say George Bush slowly. Don't screw this up. So, and then that cascade of events. And that's one of the reasons I watched the game back, Rich. A lot of the game after the Gleason punt block was a blur to me because of all the buildup and everything going in. You wanted to nail the on-camera at the start of the game and all that stuff. So it was fun. That night, Rich, I've talked about that night a little bit the last couple of weeks. We've been asked a lot about why sports has become a significant part of the conversation post-protest here, or as the protests have been going on. And I always was of the opinion that sports had more of a meaning than 3 minutes at the end of the local newscast or Section C of the newspaper. And maybe we were trying to justify our existence. But that night, I refer to all the time when I speak about sports, because that night reminded me that sports has such a civic pride that almost nothing else carries. That night in the Superdome, there were white and black, and there were female and male, and every religion you could imagine. There were people who were this great big bouillabaisse, this great big stew, this great big collection of people who would identify themselves differently on a census box. They were all wearing New Orleans fleur-de-lis. They were wearing Saint stuff, and they were all there to celebrate. And that event showed the world New Orleans was ready to be open for business again, more than any event. And the orchestra or the ballet, they don't run around with New Orleans across their tuxedo or the blouse that they're wearing. But football players and basketball players do. And they represent civic pride in a community. And that night forever cemented to me, damn, I'm gonna be very defensive about what sports meaning is in our world. And I was glad I had that experience firsthand, because I believe in it passionately. And I think we're seeing it with the actions from athletes and leagues and teams around the country and around the world right now.
Well said, Mike.